3. Last week we talked about conflict resolution, which is really fun. And today I actually am super excited. We had a couple guests who are here from Dallas, and they're not here. They didn't come all the way from Dallas for our leadership class.
We did.
But I sort of co-opted a little bit of their time. These are some friends of ours and mentors of our church. Daystar is in a network of churches that learns and grows and gets mentored by Gateway Church out in Dallas. You guys may know Pastor Robert Morris, who wrote The Blessed Life. Amazing worship that has come out of Gateway Church for a long time. And in fact, we'll have, I don't know, maybe 20 people at Gateway next week for the Gateway Conference. And so these guys happen to be in Birmingham, and they drove up to hang out with me for a little while. And we've got some things we've got to do. We got a busy schedule to cover. So I'm going to, while I've got them here, I'm going to ask them some questions. This is Pastor Bobby Bogard, and he is a senior associate pastor of Gateway. And this is Pastor Charlie Elliot. He serves with their Connect group, which really is what connects all these other churches and their apostolic reach into those churches. And so first of all, would you guys just welcome these guys from Gateway? We're Facebook Living this. We always get a lot of folks to check us out, Pastor Bobby and Charlie. So anyways, I'm so super glad you guys are here. We're going to just ask a few questions about leadership, or if you want to know about Gateway Church. You know, most of you know Gateway Church, but it's a giant church of about 35,000 people, I think, in Dallas, and church is only
16 years old.
16 years old. So, pretty amazing story. You may have heard some music come out of there, Carrie Job, some of her worship. But it's an incredible church. So if you have questions like just about, hey, what's it like being on staff of a church of 35,000, or just about leadership in general, I just thought this is a great opportunity. I'm not about to step up and teach leadership when these guys are here. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for you guys to just be able to ask some questions. So while you're thinking of some incredible questions that are going to stump these guys, what's it like to serve on a staff of 35, a church that large? What's it like? Because you're in, is it called the executive lead team? Is that what it's called? So you're on the executive?
Senior lead team.
Senior lead team. So that means, first of all, it's a huge staff that kind of serve under you guys. What's that like? I know you didn't start at a church that size.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say thanks for letting us barge in on your leadership meeting. And this is Leadership 101, so I'm expecting the questions will be moderately. Anyway, so we're honored to be here. It's great to be with Cherry and just come up and see what God's doing here in this community. Give just a little history. I'm in my 12th year at Gateway. I began as an executive pastor over our adult ministries, and then about 5 years in became a senior associate and was over all of our age range ministries. So I say it this way: if you were either from the time you were born until you go to heaven at Gateway, you were under my leadership. So we had everything from children all the way through senior adults, groups, men, women. So if you're in one of those areas, be glad to answer any questions. And then in January, they moved me over to our apostolic side, and we are, this time next week, we'll have launched our Gateway Network, which is kind of Connect 2.0, and we're excited about that. So, to be on staff at Gateway, being on staff anywhere involves relationships. It involves lines of authority, lines of communication. It's the same way there. We have a relational oversight setting so that in any given situation you have a direct report of 5 people to any one person. So we sometimes that flexes a little bit when we're in expansion season, but basically we want a lead to oversee 5 people. And the reason we do that is because we're very purposeful in our relational capacity in working with our staff. So it's a very relational staff. It's relationally led, and it's a great place to be. So I put it that simple. Maybe Charlie wants to add to that a little bit.
No, I think that says it well.
So why don't you tell them a little bit about you?
Yep. I've been at Gateway for the past 5 years, and prior to that, spent 10 years on the mission field in Africa, Mexico. Came into Gateway and began working in our Connect ministry with churches and pastors. And actually, just this year, I transitioned from our Connect ministry over back to our global ministry. So I'm kind of back in the international space, essentially doing a lot of what Pastor Bobby does with churches in the U.S. with partnerships that we form internationally with churches in different parts of the world. But as far as the staff experience, I think that, as Pastor Bobby was saying, we just place a high value on even though we're large and there's a lot of different things going on, and it's hard to know everything's going on at one time. The people that we're working with, we want to be structured in a way that there's a rhythm of doing life, there's a rhythm of doing work where I know what's going on in the lives of my team, and are they doing well, are their families well, what do they need from me to succeed at what they're doing. And so we're just very intentional about that rhythm and pace of work and life, that we can stay relational and stay healthy within our teams. So
That's one of the things that we've been going out to Gateway for about 10 years. We started out going out just to the Worship Leaders Conference, and then everybody goes now, and has been going for a long time. But one of the things that really captured our attention first was Gateway's commitment to personal health. You know, we don't want anybody serving that's not healthy. We're about you more than about what you do. And so I want to jump off of that with a question, because in our room today we've got staff members, we've got interns, we've got business owners, and you guys do an incredible job about being intentional about, you know, you're not just going to be someone's boss, you're going to be their sort of their shepherd, their mentor. And do you think that works in business? Is that a good approach for people, you know, leading people in every aspect as well?
Yeah, I mean, in any environment where you have people, again, whether it's in business, whether it's in the church, because, I mean, the church is an organization. We have to really realize that. And so business is an organization, and whatever your leadership structure is, in order for the environment to be healthy, you have to have healthy relationships. And so you talked about conflict resolution last week. So there's a lot of different ways to approach conflict resolution. Some from a top-down management, hey, it's like the dad that says, hey, I'm the dad, you're the kid, you do what I say. Or there's a relational context where, hey, we're partners together in this, and let's work through this so that the end result is the expansion of the kingdom or the benefit of the business. And so we have a lot of business people actually that come in and talk to us, and actually have us come and talk in their environments about how to lead successful teams from a relational context. And so we meet with each of our direct reports 1 hour a week. So if I have 5 direct reports, I have 5 hours of my week that I'm meeting directly with that individual. And sometimes that conversation is 45 minutes of relationship and 15 minutes of business. Because if you have healthy people, you have a healthy organization. If you have someone that's struggling financially in your business, you can minimize some theft that takes place in the marketplace if you help that individual learn how to steward their resources and finances. If you have someone that has conflict in their home, and you're just doing business, you're just running through your business day, and you never are aware of the conflict in their home, then they're bringing stress, they're bringing emotion, they may blow up, and it's not related to what's going on in the marketplace, it's related on what's going on in their home. So the relational oversight really has a lot of benefits to it, and it can precipitate health, and it can alleviate some of the conflicts that we have in those kind of environments.
Ed has come out and talked about that, and that's kind of what got our attention on it. We thought to ourselves, if everybody who worked at our church, everybody who was on staff in our organization, had a life coach, like if you could consider this, people are paying insane amounts of money to hire a life coach to help them make decisions about their life. And I thought, I looked around at the pastors on our staff, and I thought, those guys would make amazing life coaches. I mean, they have biblical principles, they understand character and ethics, they're not going to make quick decisions. And I thought, what if we could offer, part of our benefit package, if you get a life coach? Yeah. And so we took what Ed taught us, he called them Funderburk's Fabulous 4 F's. I think they're gateways, but I think it's sort of.
We'll let Ed.
We'll let him have that.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll let him have that.
I think it's sort of gateway wide, but and he talked about more than 4. But we basically, and maybe Charlie, you can talk about how that works with somebody that you're mentoring or you're being mentored by. But we cover faith, family, finances, freedom. Freedom being that area that you most likely would struggle with and might lose spiritual freedom. Faith, family, finances, freedom, friends, fitness, fun. And then the 8th one is focus. That's one we added. That's your area of focus ministry. And is that kind of, maybe not exactly the way we do it with those, all 8 of those listed, but do you feel like when you're in this relationship that somebody's looking into all of that in your life?
Absolutely. And I think that one of the tensions that can cause some leaders or overseers to draw back and not lean into those that they're leading is you may think, I don't think I'm equipped to help every problem that somebody's dealing with. And they may be walking through something and I don't think I have all of the tools or the resources or horsepower, whatever it is, to heal that situation or get them through. But what we realize is, as an overseer, you don't have to have all the answers, and you don't have to be able to solve all their problems. But our teams are going to work so much better, they're going to be so much healthier when, number one, they know they're working for someone and with someone who cares, that wants to know, that wants to walk alongside. And there may be certain things I don't need to know all the details. I don't need to know all of it. But if I know what's going on, then I'm going to say, hey, I want to help you get help in that. Let's carve out some time. Let's see if we need to dedicate some resources, or let's get you in an environment or with some resources that can help you. If it's your marriage, if it's your finances, if it's something on an emotional level. If I can help you with that, I'll help you directly. If not, I'll walk with you through it. But I'll do my best to get you in the environment and the place that can help you.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we want to look at, all of life.
And of course, just being a prayer partner for them to say, the most powerful thing we can do is pray. And so that's been one of the things, because we're right now, this is still new to us. So I am mentoring senior staff members. Senior staff members are about to mentor others. And there's a little bit of hesitation, just exactly what you said. That's everything in life. Am I really the guy to help you with everything in life? And I think if you're just the guy that cares about everything in your life, exactly, and will pray for you about everything in your life, that's great. You don't have to be an expert in all of that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you guys ask questions, because I could talk. Actually, when we leave, I'm going to continue this. I'm going to ask all the questions I can. But somebody else, if you have a question for these guys about leadership or about ministry or relationships.
Is there a significant difference on the mission field compared to the U.S. field in leadership style?
The leadership
You want
style?
to repeat that question?
Yeah, she said, is there a significant difference on the mission field compared to here in the U.S. with leadership style? I would say in general, no. There's cultural differences when you look at different regions, but pretty much wherever you go, people are people. And there's different personality styles, and within a culture, you will find people deal with conflict differently, and there are norms in different cultures. Some cultures respond differently to authority than others. So if you were to do a spectrum, the U.S. is probably the highest on individuality, autonomy, personal freedom, and rights. And you have other cultures that have an extreme that would be just much further on sort of an honor and authority scale. And every environment kind of has its pros and cons. So we can err here on the side of not honoring and understanding authority. And you can err on the other side when you go to an extreme of we can't question anything and authority is always right. And so, but in general, people are people, and the principles that make for a healthy environment are the same.
Now, you also mentioned personality profile. Do you test for personality profile, or you're trying to intuitively recognize?
Within Gateway or
Within
internet?
Gateway,
Yep.
within a business, within,
We do. We use different tools, and
which ones do you use?
one of the ones we use a lot within our church culture is Strength Finder, which is done by the Gallup organization, and it's not a personality profile, it's a profile of human talent. So it identifies your top 5 strengths out of a list of 34 strengths, and with the idea that when you align someone's work to what their natural strengths are, they're going to excel at what they do. But we also, there's, within teams, when you know the personalities and those like Myers-Briggs or DISC or something like that, it helps you understand the dynamics at play with what makes people tick. So,
What's surprisingly for me, I found you so much more accurate than my personal interview.
Yeah, and it's always exciting for people. I don't care who you are, how awesome, what a great disciple you are. You love talking about you most of the time. And so it's exciting to get your DISC profile back or your strengths finders, and I love that it's strengths finders and it's not weakness finders, So I want to see it, Yeah, so that's always fun. Somebody else?
Yeah, so with such a large staff and overseeing a bunch of people, and how do you guys set the goals, and how do you kind of filter through other people's opinions to get them in line and keep them in line and make sure no one is led astray?
Okay, as far as goals?
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, given the capacity of our staff, how do we align our goals and our visions and keep everybody on the same page?
Yeah.
Well, I want to say this, communication is always one of the biggest issues within any organization. You think about your home. There's sometimes I think I told my wife something, and then I come to find out I didn't bring her in on that, and so that creates other discussions so that we can get on the same page. So communication it's vital within any organization. The way that we kind of align our vision is, first of all, where does vision come from? Vision in our environment comes from our senior pastor and a cumulative relationship with our elders. And so they set the vision for Gateway Church. Once that vision is, whether it's a specific emphasis for the year, or an evangelism effort, or if we're going to change the structure of some setting, within a department or staffing or anything like that. So that vision has to come from the visionary. If you think about Revelation, they wrote to the angelos of the church, or the visionary of the church, which is normally your lead pastor or senior pastor. So once that vision is articulated, vision leaks. I don't know if you guys realize that. So communication of the vision and repetition of the vision needs to be consistent. It needs to be continually communicated over and over and over and over so that it doesn't leak. Or you have vision drift. In our setting, we have multiple campuses. So you think about a vision that's being set and established, then that's got to be pushed out to all of our campuses. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if we're not careful when it gets to the campus, if it's off just a little bit when it gets out here, then it gets skewed entirely. And so we have a lot of meetings. I mean, we have meetings to plan to have meetings. Because in the meeting and in the context of meetings, we can communicate and make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody understands what their authority is and what their responsibilities are in the implementation of the vision. Now, I think that's kind of a 30,000-foot view to your question. Specifics, it gets back down to that relational push down within the organization. So, if you want to.
The only other thing, just right along with what Pastor Bobby said, but our senior pastor, I've heard him quote Dr. Jack Hayford and say this, that you lead people with spoken vision, but you govern with written vision. And that goes to Habakkuk 2, it says, write the vision, make it plain, so that he who reads it may run with it. And I see that all around the offices here. You've got principles and values and things written out, because when we speak the vision, everybody gets inspired to run with it. But as we start running, that drift happens, especially when things aren't written. But when it's written out plain, we can go back to that over and over and go, no, this is what we've clarified, what we've all agreed on. So again, that some of that repetition happens by putting it in writing, putting it on the wall, putting it on the web, putting it everywhere we can put it, so that we can all see the same thing.
Sort of a follow-up, you're talking about having a lot of meetings. And one of the things that I know Jason's our church administrator, and one of the things we've talked about, we have read a couple times the book Death by Meeting, where he tells you to put a value on that meeting that, everybody in the room, if there's 10 people in the room and the average person, is making $10 an hour and you stayed there an hour, then there's a dollar figure to that meeting that you had. And so they're telling you to have less meetings. And so we've swayed back and forth. We've said, let's get less meetings and get more work done, but then we've struggled with clarity. The very thing you're talking about, because I remember Jason and I had a conversation, I said, well, what's the cost of miscommunication,
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that struggle between, hey, we want people to get out of this meeting and go do something, but we got to have enough meetings, and, we try to keep the meeting small so there's not, everybody in the room.
Right.
But, when somebody's not communicated to, it's not only does it not happen well, but it also is a kick to their morale that they're not included. So can you talk a little bit about how you make that decision on who's in the meeting and how many you have?
Yeah. Boy, that's a good question. And it's a messy question, because the reality is it just depends on who is driving the meeting. And we endeavor to have constructive meetings. And I'll be honest with you, I'm pretty high-strung. My gifts are all toward building and activating. That's who I am. I'm strategic. I'm a maximizer. And so everything that I want to do is I want to come in, make a decision, get it implemented, and down the road. I very rarely second-guess myself. And I came from an environment where we could activate things like that prior to coming to Gateway. And coming to Gateway, I began to be in meetings where we talked about philosophy and values, and it was driving me crazy, because I thought, we're not getting anything done. We didn't make a decision coming out of this meeting. But what I didn't realize, that over time, those type of meetings was driving the culture down into my heart, so that I lived and breathed the DNA, because I understood it from a philosophical and value standpoint. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so if you're looking at meetings from the aspect of implementation, then that sets the agenda for that meeting. And you need to stay on point with what your agenda is, have an agenda prior to coming into the meeting, and then walk through that agenda and you get things done. So that's implementation. But there's other meetings that we do that are strategic meetings, where we know where we want to go, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there. And so we have to have an environment where we allow creativity. And everybody has a voice when they come to that meeting. There's not necessarily a set agenda. We're trying to mine out what is God saying to us. and how does God want us to implement what He's saying to us. So in those particular type of meetings, it's a strategic brainstorming. Everybody's in. We may have posters all over the wall where we're walking through ideas. One of the tools that we use now in our culture is called StratOps. It's really becoming a part of our strategic thinking at Gateway. And so it's a process of tools that we use in order to mine out what God's saying and what's the best plan to execute what God's saying. And then the third type of meeting, like I said, are meetings where we come into a setting, maybe it's in a senior meeting or an executive meeting, and we kind of discover and go around the bush of who we are. I mean, I can remember an executive retreat one time, and the entire retreat was almost centered on what is a disciple? How do you really define what a disciple is? Now that's important that you need to understand, because if you're going to make disciples, what's the end product that you're looking for? Does that make sense? And so that was a huge discussion philosophically, and it's important because it drives our values, and our values are going to drive our vision. And so I would say those are the three probably aspects of meetings that we have. I don't know if that answers the question.
That's good stuff. That's great stuff. I'm gonna get you guys to ask one more question, because these guys, we've got a schedule to get to, and I'm gonna take them on out, and then another great leader here, Jason, is gonna kind of facilitate a little back and forth with the rest of you guys while we cut out a little bit early. So one more question from anybody? Yes? Okay, two more, right here, and then Trish.
In every organization that I've been in, well, mostly larger organizations, there's naturally departments, there's teams. So how do you get those people to work together, keeping everybody under the same vision, the same goal, and not having that division or feeling like, you know, I have to get to the resource first, or whatever that is? Like, how do you keep everybody on the same, with the same goal?
That's a ongoing battle to what we call silos. Because it can naturally emerge. It's not something that anybody is malicious about, but you've delegated a department a responsibility to get something done. Student ministries or your outreach ministry. And so they've got to utilize the resources that are at hand. So they've got to utilize media. They have to utilize, maybe the events team, facilities. You only have so much room available. And so there's that constant battle for turf and for a voice, all those kind of things. And I don't know that we do the best job. I think the way that we kind of battle that is at the senior team and executive team level, is to try to understand what's the priority of the season that we're in, and somebody has to make the hard call. And so we have a guy named Thomas Miller on our team, for example, that is over all of our weekend expression. So if you're going to get a video announcement or a video commercial in that setting, or you're going to get something that's in our magazine, monthly magazine that we hand out to all, it's got to go through his department, and he's going to assess from the cooperative conversation within the executive team what has priority and then what gets pushed up. And then on the team level, when I'm on the team level and I'm over a department, I have to realize, okay, there's a bigger world than my world. And when decisions get pushed down, then I've got to begin to be creative within my context and the resources that I have in order to push my information out without an aspect of battling somebody else. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe you can answer it a little bit.
Do y'all do anything to actively battle it, or it's mostly just your senior team?
I think it's mostly battled at the executive team level. I mean, it's felt all the way down, but we try to battle it mostly up there.
Yeah, I would say my role as an executive leader in the department I lead is it's important for a department head to understand the concept of upward loyalty. So I need to be loyal to my team, but I have to be even more loyal to the upward leadership team I'm a part of. Because from a personal standpoint, if I'm not healthy as a leader, then my team, I can allow the desire for me to look good and look like I've got their interests and I'm fighting for them, to have them be loyal. If I'm trying to bring their loyalty towards me as an individual, then I'll lead them in an unhealthy direction, because I'm using that place for my own personal needs and emotions. And so, but if I'm looking at it in the right way, I'm going to be loyal to the team I'm a part of. And if we don't get first place, if we don't get everything we wanted, then I lead by example to all my team that, hey, we're giving for the greater vision here.
One of the things that we do at Gateway, we have a social covenant. If you go on our website, we have a social covenant. And this is, again, one of those meetings where we had a lot of team players, but when we took about 2.5 days to really mine out how do we want to work socially together. And so within that social covenant, we have some parameters that address some of these issues. And so that's one tool. The other thing that I would say, along Charlie's line, is that as a leader, I've got to make sure that my team understands our values. Our values drive our culture. And if our team doesn't embrace our values, then they're going to get self-centered. They're going to get self-focused. They're going to begin to have that my mentality. Well, it's not a my mentality. It's our mentality. This is our team, our mission, our church, and we work together to accomplish our vision. Does that make sense?
That's good. All the way down the organization, people have got to cast vision then.
Exactly.
You can't just sit back and wait on the senior leader to cast vision. You've got to put it in your own words to your own team and say the same thing. One more.
I want to go back to the discipleship, and I would like to hear how you guys at Gateway kind of knew the emphasis on discipleship, because I know when we moved from like God City to our Goodman campus, we grew incredibly fast. So we became very top-heavy. And how do you take those new saved believers from being saved to owning the vision and the value of your church and being a giver and a tither and a server and those kind of things? How do y'all focus on discipleship, knowing the end result of what a disciple is and knows?
Good, great question. We put our vision statement says this: we want to see people saved, healed, set free, discipled, equipped, empowered, and serving. So there's 7 components there. But in disciples, right there in the middle. But in another way, that's kind of the whole process. That discipleship is that journey from getting saved and healed and set free to growing and being equipped, being empowered, and then serving in our. So we don't have like a formula approach that if you do these classes and you do this and you become a small group leader and you check off all these boxes and you're now a disciple. Disciple's a lifelong journey, and discipleship looks what's going on in my life as far as discipleship is different at different seasons of my life. So that's why for us we have a very robust offering of ministries. We're not real lean, simple church, maybe with weekend services and small groups, and that's it, because we're looking to, we have equip offerings with all kinds of different classes, because we're trying to help build disciples and disciple people in their marriages, in parenting, in dealing with their own emotions and personal issues and their finances. And so there's classes, there's a groups component, because there's a relational component to discipleship, and we need to be in close relationship with people. And there's all kinds of serving opportunities in ministry, because there's a giving out component of discipleship. So I don't know if that exactly answers. It's that vision that we have, saved, healed, set free, all the way to serving. I think that's really what drives our discipleship philosophy so that everything we're doing, it needs to tie into that vision of moving people forward with God, in intimacy with God. And
How do your people know that, those steps, if that's your goal for them as a believer? How do y'all make sure that they know that that's their goal?
right,
Go ahead. So, again, in our culture, discipleship is not a programmed process. It's a lifestyle. Discipleship's a lifestyle. And if, for example, I've been saved for 40-something years. Okay, so in my stage of life, the things that I'm dealing with and need discipleship to surround me is different than someone that has just come into the kingdom, or someone that is looking at the church and saying, is there truth here? And so we have a lot of doorways. We don't just have one path. We have many doorways for church, for a person to come into discipleship. And so, our equip classes, as he said, we have new believer opportunities. We have serving opportunities. We have small groups. We have stewardship classes. We have marriage classes. We have freedom environments, small groups, all kinds of settings where people, whatever their phase is, they can come in and find something to help them become a better disciple of Christ and to take another step in their journey. And sometimes, life happens and it interrupts your quote discipleship process, and experiences happen that sever relationships or bring tragedy, and you have to take a different process in your journey. Well, is there something there in your church when that happens? That's the question we ask. And so a lot of people will say, we do all that through small groups. And I would challenge that to this degree. I don't know that small groups can handle every aspect of life processes. Does that make sense? Because there are times in my life, for example, we have a lady on staff, Rebecca Wilson, that is a counselor, licensed counselor. Everybody in my family except my grandsons have been to Rebecca, myself included, because there were times, there were times and seasons when we had to step outside of maybe my oversight, my relational oversight, and I had to jump into a different context to get some perspective and some help to help me make that next step in my life. Does that make sense? So the way that it gets out there is just, it gets out there because we have equipped classes. We have all these things that are advertised, and so you plug and play wherever you want to.
And Gateway does an amazing job of not telling you what without always telling you why. That's one of the things we've learned from Gateway and really focused on, is that if there's an announcement that says this is available, there's always why it's available.
Yeah.
There's never a just, hey, if you want to come to this class, you can come to it. They always promote with the why. And see, guys like you and me are what guys? That's why our meetings are 5 minutes long, and everybody walks out and goes, what the heck, because we just go tell everybody what to do.
Why in the world are we doing that?
Yes, and so that's the incredible thing Gateway does. I'm gonna wrap up these guys' times, and I'd ask Jason just to just challenge everybody here to think about how this affects your context, the kind of things we've talked about in the last 10 minutes or so of our class. So would you guys mind praying over our group before you leave? And I believe that when you communicate something that you're living, that you carry an anointing for it, and that communication is not complete until you release something spiritually. And I would just feel blessed to know you prayed over this.
Love to do that. Amen. Father, today we thank you that we are disciples of Jesus, and that you've committed all the resources of heaven for us to walk that journey. And so today I pray your blessing on all the houses, all the departments, all the businesses, all the scenarios that are represented in this room today. And Lord, that you would lead us and guide us into truth. Because we know that the knowledge of the truth will set us free and bring complete freedom to hear your voice, freedom to walk with strength and confidence in the giftings and callings that you place in our life. So Lord, we bless this household today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Guys, would you thank these guys for joining us today?